Hello, this is Mr. Precella, and today I'm working with my face-to-face trigonometry class, working on the review for their third monthly test. And I'll just start with number 1 here on this review sheet. The first part we're doing is graphing the 6 trig functions: sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, secant, and cosecant. To find the amplitude for sine or cosine, we call the amplitude is the furthest distance the graph gets from the horizontal axis. Since it's a distance, the amplitude can't be negative. In general, the amplitude is the absolute value of whatever number the trig function's being multiplied by. Here cosine is being multiplied by -4. So the amplitude here is just 4. So B. When you're graphing when you're graphing secant and cosecant, you first need to graph the reciprocal curve, sine or cosine. So on problems 2 and 3, there's not a lot of work on this one. It asks to graph y equals 3 secant 2x plus pi, you must first graph which one of the following functions. Well, what's the reciprocal function for secant? The reciprocal of secant is cosine. So you're going to graph 3 cosine 2x plus pi. That would be this one here. 3 cosine 2x plus pi. And here's the matching problem asking about cosecant. Well, to graph y equals 3 cosecant 2x plus pi, the reciprocal of cosecant is sine, so you graph this. Now once you're through graphing the sine or cosine curves, remember what you do. You draw the vertical asymptotes wherever the graph crosses the x-axis, and then you draw in those reciprocal curves. To find the period for sine or cosine, the period is 2 pi over the coefficient of x. So here we would have 2 pi over, what's the coefficient of x here? 1/4. So you have 2 pi over 1/4. Probably the easiest way to simplify that, well, probably not the easiest. You can either flip and multiply, or multiply above and below the blue line by 4. And either way, you're going to get 8 pi. So that would be this one. Ooh. I'm supposed to be writing the answers in the blank. That's C. So to find the period for sine, cosine, or the reciprocal, secant, cosecant, it's 2 pi over the coefficient of x. But the period for tangent and cotangent, do you remember how that differs? It's pi over the coefficient of x. So here we have pi over 1/3. So just multiply above and below by 3 to get 3 pi. So that would be this one. Okay. So we're flying through these. Any questions? Y'all caught up? Number 6. Find the vertical translation. Well, we've already said the coefficient of x is what we use to determine the period. The number the trig function's being multiplied by, that determines the amplitude. The vertical shift, up or down, is a number that's either added or subtracted from all of this. In this case, the vertical shift would be that determined by this -3. So it's being moved down 3 units. If you needed to graph this, you would graph 2 sine 5x plus pi over 2 and then shift it down 3. Problem number 7 says the voltage E in an electrical circuit is given by E equals 6.9 cosine 180 pi t, where t is time measured in seconds. Well, okay. Important thing is you have a function, says find the amplitude. I just a moment ago said how you find the amplitude. It's the absolute value of the number that cosine is being multiplied by. Well, here's the angle. Cosine is being multiplied by 6.9. The absolute value of 6.9 is just 6.9. And then number 8 asks, find the period. You're given another function. E equals 5.3 cosine 130 pi t. Find the period. To find the period, number 4, sine and cosine, secant, cosecant, it's 2 pi over the coefficient of x, whereas with tangent it's pi over the coefficient of x. But we're looking at cosine, so it's 2 pi. Oh, can y'all see that? 2 pi over the coefficient. Well, our variable here is t, so the coefficient of 130 pi t would be 130 pi. So we can cancel the pi's and then reduce. 2 goes into 130 65 times. So 1 over 165. Flip the page. Now, 9 and 10 say, find the phase shift of the function. We find the phase shift. Well, phase shift is the horizontal shift. In order to find the horizontal shift, you're going to ask, okay, instead of it starting at 0 on the x-axis, where is it going to start for that primary period? So if you just take the angle and set it equal to 0, the angle is whatever comes right after the trig function. Take the angle, set it to 0, and let's see. You can move the pi over and then divide by 4. So instead of it starting at 0, it's starting at negative pi over 4 on the x-axis. So that means the phase shift is pi over 4 units to the left. Instead of it starting at 0, it's starting at negative pi over 4, which means you've had a horizontal shift of pi over 4 units to the left. Now, what about number 10? Same thing, find the phase shift. Take the angle, that's the thing that's immediate, or right after the trig function, so this whole set of parentheses, set it equal to 0. So I'd move the pi over 4 over, and then divide by 3 to get the x by itself. And since there's a fraction there, I'd just say multiply by a third instead of dividing. So this would be a negative pi over 12. There's 2 pi over 12s. One says to the right, one says to the left. Which one are we going to choose? To the left, because this was negative. So instead of it starting at 0, it's starting at negative pi over 12. Let's take a break for just a minute, and then I'll continue.